This is an interesting story that I thought I'd bring up with you today. There's been a debate recently over the claim that Elizabeth Warren predicted the 2008 financial crisis before it happened. And most of the focus on this story has been on the wrong thing. Most of the focus has been on determining, did Elizabeth Warren predict the financial crisis or did she not actually predict the financial crisis? But I don't actually think that that's the right argument at all to be having. I'll tell you the facts first, and then I'll tell you why I think the entire conversation is being framed incorrectly. 2020 Democratic candidate Elizabeth Warren did a CNN town hall. And one of the things that she said was that she predicted the 2008 financial crisis. She said, quote, "And starting in the early 2000s, the crisis was coming. I was waving my arms, ringing the bell, doing everything I could. I said families are getting cheated all over this country. It started when the mortgage companies targeted communities of color. They targeted seniors. They targeted Latinos. They came in and sold the worst possible mortgages and stripped wealth out of those communities and then took those products across the nation. I went everywhere I could. I talked about it to anyone who would listen. A crisis is coming." So is this true that she did this? Basically, it is. Okay. Before 2008, Elizabeth Warren was talking about the impending housing and financial crisis. In her 2003 book, she talked about it, subprime lending and housing crisis. In 2004 on PBS, she said that the growing household debt, the growing number of risky mortgage lending practices are causing a problem. In 2005, she told the New York Times that the amount of home equity debt that homeowners were getting into was a big red flag. And PolitiFact looked at this and determined, yes, Elizabeth Warren did predict the financial crisis. But here's my reaction. So what? Elizabeth Warren did predict the financial crisis, but why is that a big deal? Tons of people predicted it. Tons are predicting another crisis now, and none of it is even remotely notable or requires special insight to predict. What I mean by that is, obviously, our economic system and circumstances are not sustainable. Of course, there's always a financial crisis or a major downturn somewhere on the horizon. The question is it a year away or 4 years away or 8 years away? I don't know how notable it is that Elizabeth Warren predicted something that anyone who understands the boom and bust cycles of our economic system has been predicting as a matter of fact for decades, or for as long as they've been following the economy. These boom bust cycles are implicit and inherent to the economic system that we have. They're always on the horizon. The question is just when. So one of the reactions to this entire Elizabeth Warren thing has been, well, we would care about whether she did or didn't predict it because we should want a president who has the foresight to predict when the next crisis will be. Well, okay, that may be, but anybody who understands how the economy works should understand that there's always a looming crisis on the horizon. There's always a looming downturn on the horizon because it's implicit to the system we have. The vulture capitalist cycles of boom and bust that increase inequality and increase despair don't happen less frequently unless we actually deal with the problems inherent to the system that we have. So Elizabeth Warren predicted it. Tons of people predicted it. And anybody who understands our system understands that such a crisis is always on the horizon. It's great that Elizabeth Warren is actually talking about it, but having the foresight to predict it is actually not notable, although I'm glad that it is getting more attention.